Good afternoon or good morning if you're on the West Coast. Welcome to the 2021 summer meeting, another virtual event this year. I know we all hope our future CUTC meetings will be in person, so we may all do what we like to do. That is, get together as a professional family, exchange thoughts, and enjoy each other's company. Well, I can't wait. My name is Chandra Bhatt, and I'm with the University of Texas at Austin. I currently have the privilege of serving as the CUTC president, along with my friends on the CUTC executive board, including Larry Roulette, Pat Zari, Noreen McDonald, Tom O'Brien, Marwa Hassan, Shauna Hallmark, David Cat, Michael Nodler, P.S. Sriraj, and Inhai Wang, and the rest of the CUTC members. It is my pleasure to see so many of you join us here at our summer 2021 meeting. We will begin our meeting with the UTC directors meeting, which will be run by the US Department of Transportation. Note that immediately after today's meeting of the UTC directors, there will be a grant managers meeting. And of course, we have the CUTC meeting starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central. Well, before I introduce Caesar Singh, who will take it away from me, let me, on behalf of all CUTC members, thank every member of the wonderful USDOT UTC team for providing us in academia the opportunity to contribute to our society and to our nation. The UTC program represents a shining beacon of academic, public, and industry collaboration that fosters creative research, inspires community interactions, and perhaps most importantly, builds the pipeline of our future leaders. Many of us directing centers today actually came through this program as students ourselves. So once again, to Doctors Robert Hampshire and Firaz Ibrahim, Caesar Singh, Don Tucker Thomas, Denise Dunn, Robin Klein, Amy Stearns, and many others I'm sure I'm leaving out from the UTC program. Thank you for all that you do. Now, to my good friend, Caesar Singh. Mr. Singh is the director of the University Grants Program at the US Department of Transportation. He has more than 30 years of experience within the transportation industry and is involved in a diverse range of surface transportation programs and projects. His experience, both in private and public sectors, covers areas of planning, operations, and the design and management of transportation projects internationally. Most importantly, Caesar is an ardent cheerleader and supporter for CUTC and has been most supportive of our activities. So before I give it away to Caesar, just a few housekeeping matters. The mute button is in the bottom left corner of the live stream screen. Please keep yourself muted unless the session is open for questions. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the session Q&A tab. Please post all your questions in this tab. The chat tab you see in the Zoom feed is disabled. Please use the chat tab on the right side of your Whova screen instead. You can have additional discussion or share additional information amongst yourselves during the sessions. Questions can get lost in the chat tab, so please make sure to post all questions in the Q&A tab only. And now to Caesar, all yours.
Thank you, Chandra, and thank you, CUTC, for giving the USDOT a time slot at this event. We are very appreciative, and we would like to take this opportunity to, welcome you and share with you some of the program thoughts. So to start that off, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Robert Hampshire, who many of you has already met in the recent past through our meet and greet webinar that we conducted. So Dr. Robert Hampshire is our Deputy Assistant Secretary and Chief Science Officer at USDOT. And he has been, prior to USDOT, Robert was an associate professor at the Gerald Ford Public Policy School at the University of Michigan and a research associate professor at University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute and the Michigan Institute for Data Science, and an affiliated faculty member at the Department of Industrial and Operational Engineering. Robert has a unique experience of a blend of engineering systems research with public policy, and which has made him not only a leader in transportation research, but also a disparate impact researcher of policy decisions in transportation systems. So without further ado this thing, I would like to welcome Dr. Hampshire to share some of his thoughts on the program at USDOT. Robert, the floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Caesar. I want to thank all CUTC members and the director, Dr. Chandra Bhatt. Such an honor to be here with you all today. And it's just really fantastic to see so many names in the chat box of folks who have supported me throughout my career over the years. So this is just always fantastic to see friends in the chat box. So as Caesar mentioned, I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology and the Chief Science Officer for Department of Transportation. Prior to January 20th of this year, as Caesar mentioned, I was a faculty member at University of Michigan. There, working on work on connected vehicle work, but most recently was leading a large interdisciplinary team studying how transportation systems impact the environment and particularly equitable access to opportunities. That was a large multidisciplinary team. That's something I value from a systems perspective, having, engineers, health professionals, planners, take the broadest view of medical professionals involved in the transportation research enterprise. And so that sort of some of the experience I'm bringing to today. In the past as well, I'm sort of very familiar with the research and technologies activities at the Department of Transportation. So, I've been involved in two UTCs, one at Carnegie Mellon University, where I was a faculty member, and I've received funding from one at the University of Michigan. And so I'm well aware and really appreciate and love and know the intricacies, the opportunities, and some of the challenges that UTCs face. Over the years, of course, we received funding from FHWA, from the SBIR program, from NHTSA, from FDA. My colleagues and I have been able, get funding from USDOT. And so I think that gives me a perspective, that my predecessors in this position actually for quite some time hadn't quite had that view of research at DOT, being a recipient of grants. And so that's something I bring to the table and I know that I share with you all. Certainly at Umptree, had the pleasure of working with Jim Sayer, who was the director of the Ann Arbor Safety Pilot Model Deployment and the Ann Arbor Connected Vehicle Test Environment, for connected vehicles infrastructure that was funded by ITS JPO. So, those programs are near and dear to my heart. And it's just really great to be here as a steward of these programs and help lead them into the next generation. So in addition to those experiences, I just want to say a couple other things. So, many of you who know me may not even know this, but so I've had the opportunity as well to work in some of the most innovative research environments in addition to the ones that are already mentioned. And these really shape my view of the possibilities, the potential, the transformative potential of research. So I started my research career off at Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. And so there, the home of the transistor, the home of cell phones, where Unix was created. And that's what was my first, time I dipped my toe into research was at Bell Labs. And that's sort of an experience that, you know, has transformed and guides the way I think about it. We've also had the opportunity to work at IBM research labs, as well as some time at the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton. And so these are, in addition, environments where it's not just the cutting edge science and breakthroughs, but it's also the culture of excellence, mentoring, also community building, particularly as a African American, a person of color. The mentoring, culture, and community building are just essential, together with the excellence and leading edge innovation. And so that's a perspective that I bring, you know, to research and technology at DOT. And I want to, you know, again, infuse and encourage you all in your work, not just the why of the work, but the how you do it, you know, and that's the culture, mentoring, and community building. You know, the last year has been tough for everyone. We know that COVID-19 has shed light on many of the challenges facing our nation, including our nation's transportation system. You know, last year, we saw an increase in the number of roadway fatalities, even though there were fewer people driving. People, especially those in underserved areas, face challenges accessing work, food, healthcare, and vaccination centers. You know, we witnessed a dramatic change in commuting behavior, you know, due to the divide between those able to work from home and those too essential to work from home. We've seen a shift in freight and passenger travel, a large uptick in freight. So there's some major trends, opportunities, and challenges that we all are facing as a research community, as a nation, but certainly as a research community. You know, particularly troubling is the increase in roadway fatalities, despite the fact that fewer people are driving. That, you know, I think upends some of our notions of what, you know, some of our safety systems and safety culture. And so there's a lot of work to be done there. Being about, you know, as we emerge into what the post COVID new normal, hopefully, for transportation, I think deploying the firepower of UTC's research and technology, you know, is key to tackling those challenges that I mentioned and ensuring that we're prepared for the future. You know, my vision here at USDOT for research and technology includes, you know, growing a diverse transportation workforce while fostering a learning environment. That's key. You know, UTCs are critical to that. Supporting public sector experimentation and providing lessons learned from new innovation deployments. That's technical assistance. That's, you know, field experiments. That's deploying. You know, but also accelerating novel, not incremental, accelerating novel early stage research projects is going to be key. And it's a new cultural shift that I would like to bring to, you know, USDOT to really invest in really cutting edge, very forward looking projects. And certainly that, you know, this vision that I have also includes enabling system wide interoperability. You know, that's between innovations. So systems can talk to each other. We live in a system of systems world, right? So, but particularly also fostering cross-modal integration, right? So from pipelines to freight to rail to transit, really the innovations at that intermodal intersection, there's just great and tremendous opportunity there. But I'd also like to say, you know, it's not exactly what we do, but it's also the how. So in accordance with the president's memorandum on restoring trust in government, this is one of the first executive orders from the Biden-Harris administration around scientific integrity. I'm committed, and I challenge you to commit to doing your research in a way that builds trust and relies on evidence and facts. We're doing that inside of the DOT, and I encourage you to double down and recommit yourself to evidence-based, truth-based research. You know, and also earlier, I want to point this out because this is in the news. You know, earlier this year, the president released the American Jobs Plan. You know, that's aimed at traditional infrastructure like fixing highways, building bridges, updating ports, airports, and transit. It also includes social infrastructure that is critical for our economy to function. You know, we live in a world also where communication systems are also should be considered a mode of transportation. Some of our own UTC members wrote a fantastic article about viewing transportation systems and communication systems as in collaboration with each other. That's, you know, broadband and others. So the American Jobs Plan is a once in a century capital investment that's above and beyond reauthorization. We can get to that later. A once in a century capital investment in America to not only meet our current infrastructure needs, but if you look at the plan, it also invests in transformative research and development programs that we've been pushing. You know, these investments will advance equity by providing better jobs, better transportation options, particularly for underserved communities. Here, underserved communities include communities of color, but in urban areas and also rural areas. You know, they will include, you know, the impacts of climate change to improve those by, you know, using more innovative, sustainable materials. There's just such a tremendous opportunity in innovative materials. We're on the cusp of transformational changes in innovative materials, you know, in a way that strengthens our national resiliency, particularly to natural disasters. You know, so these investments will allow us to expedite our responses to the climate crisis and help us move to a clean energy economy. You know, all these things are in the wheelhouse and actually of UTCs, but also need the intellectual leadership of folks here on this call. You know, one thing I want to specifically point out is, you know, is the workforce development and workforce opportunities that are in front of us in the charge of UTCs and also USDOT. You know, I've said this before to some of you, but, you know, I want to reiterate, in order for us to realize the benefits of a resilient and safe transportation system, we got to build it in a broader, with a broader and more diverse transportation workforce. You know, as I mentioned, within AJP, there's an effort to ensure that, you know, we're not going to leave any communities behind. And we need to look not just at our work, but our workforce development work as well through equity lens. And I encourage you, you know, to continue to think about different job skills for transportation workforce, you know, cross-topic, interdisciplinary, non-traditional majors and disciplines, you know, that aren't traditionally in transportation, but there's tremendous opportunities, be that in design, be that in the social sciences, you know, that our students are all majoring in now, but also the opportunity that there's a place for them in transportation and bringing these potential hires to the table for our workforce of the future. You know, not only do I encourage you to continue doing this kind of innovative work, the research side and the workforce development side that will carry our nation's transportation system into the future. You know, I really just want you to, I want to encourage you in that work. And again, communicate with us about some of your success stories. We'll do, you know, and have done, you know, to pass those on, making sure that, you know, folks within DOT, the policymakers and top leadership are aware of the tremendous work that you all are doing. I'm one of the biggest cheerleaders as well for the UTC program, having, you know, been supported over so many years by the program. So please continue to communicate with us, share your success stories, but also share any challenges you might have that we could ameliorate and help, you know, promote your work. So I realize I've laid out a bunch of different challenges that we need to tackle, but I want to just extend again my sincere thanks to everyone here for all the work you're doing. continuing to do. I know there's some uncertainty and challenges in front of us, but I think, part of the promise for, for joining this administration, with the Biden-Harris administration, and also Secretary Pete, I think we're at the cusp of a generational transformative opportunities in transportation in ways that can improve the lives of the citizens and Americans, that in a way that, doesn't come around too often. So a once in generational kind of opportunity. And I think we have that kind of secretary as well to provide the leadership for these transformational changes. So with that, I want to encourage you to continue in your great work. And I look forward to working with all of you as we help shape the future. So with that, I'll turn it back over, I believe, to Caesar.
Thank you, Robert.
So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Robert. And Dawn, would you like to moderate the Q&As?
There are no questions in the Q&A for Robert right now. So I'm not sure if you would want to continue.
Yes, we could.
There might be some questions later on.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move on then. So next I believe none of you have met our new director for the Office of Research, Development, and Technology here at USDOT. And I'm here to introduce Dr. Firaz Ibrahim as the new director. He's hardly been here for maybe at the most a couple of weeks, if not less. And Dr. Firaz is a professional that has been part of the Federal Highway Administration, and he has served as a lead manager since 2014 as a lead manager for stewardship and oversight with the Federal Highway Administration. In that capacity, Firaz provided stewardship and oversight leadership and direction to ensure that there was a successful delivery of federal aid highway program, which was to the range of $44 billion annually. So as a lead manager, Dr. Ibrahim led national initiatives resulting in improvements to effectiveness, efficiency, and compliance of program delivery. He was instrumental in implementation of risk-based, data-driven approach to stewardship and oversight, integration of corporate performance planning and enterprise risk management, and development of the Federal Highway Administration's annual enterprise performance plan. So Dr. Ibrahim is a PhD and a master's and a Bachelor of Science degrees in civil engineering. And he's obviously a licensed professional engineer in the state of Pennsylvania. And in introducing Firaz, I can attest that we are so honored and proud to have him as our director of the Research, Development, and Technology Office, which includes the UTC program. So Firaz, welcome, and the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you, Caesar, and hello, everybody. Like Caesar says, I'm the new guy, and I know some of you, so I will say, hello to my new and old friends and colleagues. I'm going to start by saying how great it is to be with all of you. And like Robert, my passion is really research and innovation, so I'm really thrilled to be back in the research community to lead the department's Office of Research, Development, and Technology. But I'm also thrilled and I believe I'm privileged to be working with all of you. I come from one of the university transportation centers. My PhD is in one of them. I don't have to know which one it is. But I know the tremendous talents and intellect that all of you bring to the table. So I'm really privileged to be working with all of you, in my view, the world's most creative minds. Now, if you can allow me to make a few remarks on partnership, for those of you that know me, I'm really a people's person. I believe in partnership and communication. So I think, if we need to get somewhere, we really need to get somewhere together. So on behalf of the USDOT, I want to say thank you for a great partnership. I've learned quickly, so today is the beginning of my 5th week in the office. But I can tell you, Cesar had shared with me all the great partnership that you have with our office. So thank you for a great partnership. We appreciate what you've done for the American people through all your successes. As I think about the relationship between you and the United States Department of Transportation, something comes to mind that Isaac Newton once said. And in it, Isaac said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." So take a moment here to think about this a little bit. And in fact, if you don't mind, maybe either make a mental note or write in the chat who you think the I refers to in this quote and who you think the giants refer to in this quote. I'm going to read the quote again for you, just for you to play that exercise. So indulge me if you will. So if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So I'm gonna pause for 10 seconds while you either write in the chat who you think the I and giants refer to, or maybe make a mental note. And it would have been much better if we're in person because I can see you playing that exercise. So apologies, but I think we're making the best out of the virtual world in here. Now, if you thought that the I refers to the USDOT and giants refer to you, you're absolutely right. But also for those of you that thought that I refer to you and the giant refer to the USDOT, guess what? I think you're also right. And I think, both the USDOT and all of you are giant thinkers. I've been with the department for 20 years and I have tremendous respect for all the brains in the United States Department of Transportation, but I also work with a lot of the universities. And I know that's to be true as well. Because both of you, the USDOT and you at the UTCs, both have the vision to see far. I mean, you've heard Robert talk about what a great opportunity it is to be working on this stuff today because of what we can do to transform America. But what's most important about the partnership is for us to be able to see far, we really have to have what I call a lifting partnership. When the giant would lift the other so they can see farther. So I expect us to do that for you, but also hopefully you will do the same back to us, and I know you do. So because through this great lifting partnership, we can make scientific progress and we can take transportation, the economy in America to brand new heights. Now let's shift a little bit here and talk about innovation and the future. I think these are two exciting topics for me. And these are one of the main reasons that I wanted to join this office, so I can be able to participate and help with us using innovation to get us to the future. You, as our intellectual and academic capital at the UTCs, you are vital to the future of this country. At the USDOT, we recognize that we cannot keep doing the same thing, but yet expect different results. So if we want to really have a major transformation into our future, we have to really embrace innovation and we have to think differently. So together, between us all, I think we can elevate transportation through, we still have to work on the incremental changes. That's something that must go on, but also equally as important is we have to work on game-changing innovations. So we need your leadership. We need you to continue with your leadership, technical and other leadership, to keep innovation at the forefront of your agenda. Like Robert said, we have exciting times ahead of us. We are on the verge of a major transformation of our system and the way we use it. You've already start seeing technologies on the road, and I think it'll get even more exciting over the next decade or more. So my office will provide the inclusive collaborative leadership during this transformation, but we cannot do it alone. We will need your talents to keep producing innovations that will help us transform our system. Our partnership is vital so that our system be the most advanced, most seamless, and most responsible in the world. Being in the United States, we have the best talents, we have the resources, financial resources, we have the universities. So we definitely have all what it takes to be the best transportation country that has the best transportation system in the world. Now, Robert touched on, some of the technology and advancement, also seamless between the integration of the systems, interoperability of the technologies, but also how to be responsible in terms of equity, in terms of protecting the environment, having climate solutions, having equal access to everybody in America. But worry also about the future of our children. So, we have that big responsibility. We have the responsibility of safety as well, right? And so this is not necessarily just a safety because of accidents, during vehicles transport, but also health hazards that we have, that we learned this year painfully with COVID-19. Now, the good news is that we have the vision and support from the top. As you heard, Robert, he mentioned the secretary. As part of the American Jobs Plan, the secretary challenged us to lead in transforming and future-proofing American transportations. To do this, we not only need to meet current infrastructure needs, but also invest in transformative R&D programs. These investments that we will pour into R&D will help us advance equity, reduce the impact of climate change through sustainable materials and processes, but also strengthen the nation's resiliency to natural disasters. Transformative R&D efforts will allow us to expedite our response to the climate crisis and move us to clean energy economy. We expect that the UTCs will be engaged in all these exciting efforts should Congress authorize us and meet the challenge. Now, meeting new challenges is not new to you at the UTC, right? Everything you do is a new challenge and you conquer it. Innovation and transformation are a key outcome of what you produce. Your UTCs have continued to serve as innovators, translating ideas from the cloud into commercially viable products. We encourage you to continue driving innovation through transformative projects because this will help us create the future of passenger freight transportation. So again, I'm really excited about what we can do together. I think we have what it takes to all of us anticipate, prepare, and transform America towards a brighter future. So let's shift a little bit here and talk about investments. You heard Robert address R&D investments, and hopefully with the new American Jobs Plan, there's going to be a lot of excitement in terms of increased investments into R&D to get us to where we need to go. But we really need to be vigilant. We have to ensure upfront that we maximize the return on investments. So to do that, we really need to talk to each other. We need to communicate, but most importantly, we need to engage all stakeholders. We also need to mobilize all of our assets at all different fronts. So this is not necessarily physical assets or human assets, but everything starts from the top with the DOT strategic RD&T plan. Robert mentioned, come to us, talk to us about success stories, because we want to see what you're doing to support our RD&T and advance, the department's goals and strategies. We really need to have effective coalition. I know we have a great partnership with you, but we really need to look outside of our office and the UTCs and look at other, the modes in general, not just those in the field, but also in headquarters. We need to look at the industry, the private sector. We need to look at the international community. We really need to build this effective coalition and mobilize it to get to where we need to go. We need to diversify our diverse talents. I know we have diverse talents, not just in terms of gender and culture, but also from the intellects that we bring to the table, the multidisciplinary approach to problem, where maybe otherwise we wouldn't have had people communicate and come up with big and bold solutions if we stay within our discipline. So we really need UTCs to talk to each other and try to find new and creative ways to offer new solutions to get us to where we need to go. We need to mobilize advanced also research and development facilities. And I know the UTCs that all have, and all the universities that participate in the UTCs have different facilities. At the federal government, we have a lot of facilities as well. We really need to utilize all of that with the private research facilities to get us to where we need to. And at the end, when we have research results, we need to really deploy it and make sure everything is in widespread spread use. So at the Department of Transportation, we're going to play our part, and we really look forward to you continuing to play in your part. And as you do so, I encourage you to ensure that your research effort is aligned again with the RD&T goals of the department, and to explore ways to improve the mobility, safety, security, accessibility, and system interoperability. Ultimately, they say transportation is the backbone of the economy, so we really need to help grow the economy and provide solutions to address our climate crisis. And I know some of you do this already, but those of you that don't, I really encourage you to engage with stakeholders through live workshops, have them come to the table, and hopefully, after COVID's behind us, we start being live and use dynamic polls at the meetings, data visualization, and we also need to ensure that the research efforts that you all do collaborates and capture collaboration opportunities with our modes like federal highways, FDA, FRA, FAA. So we don't have the modes, the $1 billion research and development technology program, and we have the UTC, that we really don't have this segregation. We really need both the UTCs and the modes together to work between, your investment, the investment in your RD&T and investment with the modes. You can leverage resources and find opportunities and needs and gaps so we can together grow to meet the challenges of the future. So please, like Robert said, we would love to host you at the USDOT. I can tell you, on week one, I was talking to colleagues of mine within the department, they really commended some of you that come to the department, even virtually for now, to say, this is what we're working on. What do y'all think? What are y'all working on? And here's what we found. And they really love that, because they have research funds and you have research funds, and together we can accomplish that program goal, whatever program you're working on. We can come to you. We're happy to come visit you as well, so it's not a one-way relationship. It's really a two-way relationship. And ideally, all of these happening at certain milestone, of your journey, from the planning stage through the execution stage, but most importantly, through the showcase of your success at the end, what ended up with your outcome, as outcome of your research. So please share with us and the world, not just the transportation community. We encourage you, and I know all of you do. You publish papers, you go to conferences, but continue the good work of sharing with us your success stories. But also help us provide the leadership for researchers, around the country and the world, and also practitioners that use your products to develop meaningful and meaningful performance metric. One of the things that Congress challenged us with is to look at how effective our RD&T program. So we really need to be smart about what metrics to look at to see how successful we are, not only in RD&T technology, but also preparing the workforce development of the future. So as you're developing new technology, that's gonna, all of a sudden introduce a huge gap in our industry. And we don't want things to, to go elsewhere. We really need to be cognizant that we really need to develop the workforce. So continue developing the workforce in the universities, because we need them. And last but not least, I encourage you to, if you don't do that already, but I know most of you do, that we really need to ensure that all of your universities, including historically Black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions, to closely coordinate and collaborate for a diverse consortium. Like I mentioned before, what our strength is really diversity. So we really need to bring all the talents to the table to come up with creative solutions. So before I close, let me address a very important topic that Robert touched on, and that's the topic of scientific integrity. As you know, the president issued a memo right after he was inaugurated on restoring trust in government through scientific integrity and evidence-based policy making. In it, he declared that in his policy, that it is his policy to make evidence-based decision-making guided by the best available science and data. This is really great news for scientists, that science is king, and you really have the freedom and liberty to publish and communicate the findings of your research, but we also need to make sure the quality of the research is there, that you have the evidence to demonstrate your findings and whatever it is that you conclude in your outcome of research. So to implement this policy, the secretary established the position of chief science officer and appointed Dr. Hampshire to that position. And my office and the modal leadership in the Department of Transportation, we will work to support him as we preserve and promote scientific integrity. And you'll be hearing more about that in the future. So in closing, I just really want to say, thank you all at the UTCs, but also thank you at the USDOT. I know the USDOT team, they work really hard, not just with you, but also behind the scene to make everything happen and to facilitate your success and to provide leadership to make sure the UTC program is successful. So I want to thank all of you for the hard work in preparing America for a brighter future, especially this past year during difficult times of COVID-19. And I also want to say thank you to all the participating universities for the work they do also to improve transportation. I really look forward to a stronger lifting partnership with each and every one of you. And I believe if we work together as one transportation team, we will accelerate making this country a better place for future generations. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today, but I look forward to working with you for years to come. Thank you so much. Don, back to you.
Thank you, Ferris. In the essence of time, Caesar Singh is up next. He's the UTC director. And Caesar.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Faraz. I just wanted to capture some of the programmatic matters in closing, and just want to report back to the community on a couple of items. The first of all is your inputs to the report to Congress document that Dawn has been working hard to put together for the 2020 fiscal year. And all of you have done a tremendous job. And one of the key, as you know, this was a learning process for all of us as we went along this path of developing what so-called project descriptions. So we've gone back and forth with you to kind of fine tune some of these reporting descriptions, and it turned out to be a very solid kind of reporting system that is excellent. So thank you, and we'll continue to do the same for the next reporting year as well. So just an FYI and a thank you. The next item is the webinar series that you guys are holding. It is excellent, and we have been consolidating that in a repository of the announcements at the USDOT site, and Robin Klein is responsible for doing that, and we are seeing we continue to see significant interest and hits. So let's continue to do that as well. Now, another new set of activities that we just embarked on is the guest speaker series that we are trying to collaborate with ITS JPO here. And it's one of those events where there would be a guest speaker going to your location and giving a talk to your students and so on and so forth. And that has kicked off, but it's still on a learning curve, because with the students, your calendar year conflicts and so on and so forth, the timing has not been great in the launch of that initiative, but I'm confident, that we will do a good job at it going forward. Now, the last item is to kind of piggyback on what Firaz was saying, as well as what Robert had indicated, is, as you know, in the last couple of years, you've seen the visibility of the UTC program grow and the recognition of the program. Now, the evidence of that in the recent past is, as you know, the solicitation that we conducted for the national UTCs, as well as for the tier ones, which happened right in the middle of the pandemic. And that was done in a timely manner, in a record time, to say the least. So with that note, we know that we are being recognized tremendously by the stakeholders and so on and so forth. So in our thought process, in addition to what we are doing currently, collectively, the pool of us, what my question is, what additional activities and meetings or workshops, like Firaz was saying, that we could be embarking on as we go forward towards, once the pandemic, closes out and we are close to some kind of normalcy in operating conditions. I would like to solicit your ideas, your thoughts, and, let's get together, be it in a group meeting or something in the near future. Let's discuss ideas, what additional activities that we can do beyond our traditional set of laid out activities and annual conferences that we do anyways to begin with. So I just wanted to throw that out. And if you have any specific ideas, you can send them to me or your grant managers as you please. So with that, I think that's about all that I wanted to report back to you. And thank you again, and hope to see all of you face to face in the near future, and definitely at TRB, I'm sure. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Caesar. To circle back to Robert, we do have one question that snuck in the chat system. It wasn't in the Q&A tab. And the question states, what would you like to accomplish at the end of your tenure at USDOT?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think one of the things is we're working to really make research at DOT have a more forward-leaning posture to do larger transformative projects. And so that's something that one legacy to have us, continue and deepen to do forward-leaning work, as opposed to, there's mission-driven research, that sort of, helps us get through the operational day-to-day and kind of looks forward for that next year. But I think I want a legacy for us to look further ahead into the future. So that's one sort of cultural thing in the way in which the department works.
Okay. I don't see any additional questions. And if anyone does have any questions, if you could please post it in the Q&A.
So Dawn,
Yes.
this is Chandra. I see a question for Robert in the Q&A. So let me just, voice it here. Is there a particular area in equity with transportation this administration wants us to focus on? Because there are inequities at almost every level in transportation. From people, so that's the basic question, Robert.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Chandra. There's two principles I want to put out there. One, the president's executive order on racial equity that he signed on the first day of the administration calls out a set of underserved communities and underserved populations. And so in that executive order, those are sort of the areas for equity and remedying underserved and serving underserved populations that are spelled out in that executive order. So it's quite broad. It certainly leads with race, but also other, be it ability, physical ability, be it geography as well, urban and rural. So I think here it is not prescriptive. we want to create a transportation system that provides equitable access to all Americans. So there's no prescription there. I think there's a lot that we can do to improve and make our system more equitable.
Okay, we do have another question here, and this is dealing with tribal colleges, tribal and community colleges. So many UTCs now include tribal and community colleges as part of their consortia. Do you have any thoughts on how they can be leveraged and engaged in education and workforce development?
Oh, this is great. There's several of your UTC colleagues and partners, are integrating tribal areas and colleges into their UTCs. And so I think there's good models that, that are moving in that direction. There's also UTC partners that are partnered with community colleges. That's something that we have to continue to deepen those relationships. There's legislation and there are public that, really thinks about the transportation workforce much more broadly, be it through apprenticeships, be it through vocational work. And so that's all, I see that as all part of our workforce mission and keys to many of your UTCs already. But that kind of work, we want to continue to think about workforce broadly, be it through apprenticeships, vocation, and community colleges. So thank you.
This next question is for Ferris Ibrahim. The question is, do you have a plan or a vision to help remove the silos that exist within the transportation community? If so, what is your vision to help bring in other professionals, that is historians and social scientists, into the transportation field?
Oh, absolutely. That's really a great question. Often, we all have expertise and we're passionate about what we do and really like to put our arms around what we do. And we don't want anybody to tell us what to do or take away what we're trying to do. And my experience in the past with the DOT and outside of DOT is really the more you diversify, in terms of bringing people from different sectors, but also I mentioned the multidisciplinary, and that by that I mean not only like different engineers and scientists, but historians and others as well. Even psychologists, doctors. I mean, I'm meeting now with different medical professions about things that are good for America, good for things that you wouldn't think would touch on transportation, but actually it does. And to me, unless we really look at all of this from different angles, wear different sets of glasses and understand, most importantly, our history. One of the things about history is, what I learned is if you don't look back and learn from history, I don't think you'd be as good going into the future. There's a lot of lessons to be learned by history, by even human behavior. And that I remember, seeing a piece on, how looking at pictures from New York City in the early 1900s, where everybody on horse and buggies. And who would have thought within like 8 to 9 years, everybody in motorized vehicles, that would have been crazy to think it back then. And I think, when electric vehicles started, then autonomous vehicles started, who would have think that we would get to where we are today? But I think looking back at history, you can see that it's really repeating itself. And I think, bringing it to the table and learn about all the history and again, the human psychology behind things. So my plan is to really try and expand the circle, not just within the scientific community, but different aspects of the community. So start with our traditional partners, but also, improve on it. I'm having, this approach to start, starting with the smaller circle of DOT with the modes, but also the smaller circle of the UTC, bringing these together, bring in the nonprofit organization, but bring in, opportunities. And I look forward to, to recommendations from you. If you think that we ought to tap into an area we haven't tapped into. So whoever raised that question, I'm curious, just drop me a note and say, this is something y'all haven't looked at in the past. I think with diversity, we become stronger and we become more successful. but that's my whole focus really, is not just the science, how to bring us to the future, but how to bring us all together to get us all towards the future.
Okay, thank you. Caesar, I have a question for you. What is the latest about the next reauthorization, the next recompetition? And has there been any thinking on the format, collaboration requirements, type of centers, et cetera?
And well, to answer that, typically our competition solicitations are mandated and authorized through the legislation. And currently, we do not have a current legislation that makes us operational beyond the fiscal year of 2021 per se, in the context of new competitions. So until we get a new authorization, that's when we will receive the mandate, if there is a mandate to continue the program with new competitions, and in what areas of interest.
Okay, and I think we're butting up on time, but let's try to squeeze this one last question in. I think this is for Robert. What role would ARPA 1 proposed by the administration play in relationship to the UTC program?
Oh, that's a great question. That's ARPA I.
Okay.
It's in the pub. If you look at the American Jobs Plan posted online, there's a incredibly new and transformative research initiative agency to really do forward-leaning, early stage advanced research that can lead to commercialization as well, following the DARPA model. And so that's something that the president is in his plan, and something that the secretary and the public records has campaigned on, and things that he's talked about. So there's a lot in the public domain, but it would be transformative if that happened. And so any comments and suggestions you might have on that, as you know, and it's posted in the president's budget, which is public, and the public documents from Congress and the White House. So I encourage you to take a look at that. But it's something that if you have input on, please let us know. But it would be totally transformative and forward-looking. But of course, Congress makes the laws and we execute them. So we would look forward to any feedback you have on that. But I'm incredibly excited by it. It's something we've been working on, and I would welcome your input on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I would like to thank all the speakers and thank everyone for joining this session.